I'll just let you know I have terrible time with technology. I could not get this on my computer, so I'm watching it on my phone. So.
That's perfect. Sometimes that's easier. Depending on the age of your phone or the age of your computer, sometimes that is easier.
Well, my computer is like really new. I just don't know how to use it right. I mean, I guess, because I clicked on, I found it on the email and I clicked on the join Zoom meeting and it just won't go there. But on my phone, it goes fine.
Okay. Well,
anyway,
I'm glad you made it.
Me too.
Okay. So I hit the record. And so welcome back. How are people doing? Did anybody try anything out this week with some kind of mindfulness practice to experiment with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think, Judy?
I thought I did it like different things 4 times. And the first time I did was like the body, you call it body scan.
Mm-hmm.
By myself, and I realized it only took me like 2 minutes to do but I found that mostly I did a couple guided ones from Insight Timer, and those were much easier for me to do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the guided ones are always an easy place to start if people ever, feel like they're just not doing it or not getting it, or it's a little hard. I think the guided ones are always a great bridge for us. Yeah. Anyone else have a chance to try anything out this week? See what you found out? Yeah, Marty?
Well, I figured that maybe the best way to get myself centered was to start with a short prayer. So I sort of have done my own take on the serenity prayer of just 2 sentences. Dear Lord, guide me through today. Help me to not worry about what I can't control and can't change.
Mm-hmm.
It's a work in progress.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think the thing that's great about meditation is it's one of those things where you can adapt it to what works for you. If you're someone who likes images, you can, meditate with images. If you're someone who likes to close your eyes, you can do that. If you're someone who likes to move, you can do that as well. Cynthia, I saw your hand raised. What did you have?
So between last week and this week, Pastor Jim did a 1-day seminar on prayer. And one of the prayers he talked about was doing the prayer of examine, where you go back over the last 24 hours and try to picture your day and then also picture where God was in your day. And I have a terrible memory, and so I'm terrible at that. But doing that forced me to not only look back and think, oh, what did I do yesterday and where was God? But also be more like, okay, today I'm going to look back on right now. So I need to be more present and be on my body. And I'm not that. So I'm trying to remember to be more focused on my body, on what's happening right now, because I know later I'm going to look back and try to go through the day.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah. I think I'm not great with that prayer form either, because I just can't remember the day. But yeah, if you're going to be doing that, it may help you then be a little more remembering of the day as you're in it. That's great. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start off with a body scan. So we'll do that together. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of information on what's called mindful listening. So we'll look at how we can bring the practice of mindfulness, not just to meditation, but how we can use it in our daily listening. And then I'm going to teach you a couple mindfulness tools that you can use throughout your day, because we don't always have the capacity to stop and have a 5-minute even meditation. But I'll teach you a couple things you can do just in the course of your regular day to help you be a little more mindful. And then we'll talk about the concept of the anchor, which is a concept that is a really helpful way of talking about how we center in mindfulness. And then we'll have some more opportunities to practice as well today. So why don't you go ahead and mute yourself and go ahead and get comfortable. Okay.
Can you mute me? I can't find it right now.
I got you. There you go. You are muted, Judy. Okay. So go ahead and mute yourself. I think everyone's muted. Great. And go ahead and get comfortable where you're at, whether you're on a chair or on a bed. Just bring yourself to that moment and begin to bring your attention to your body. And if you are comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes. And then notice where you are seated and feel the weight of your body on the chair, the sofa, the floor. Just notice that. And take a couple deep, relaxing breaths. And as you're breathing, bring in the oxygen and think about how as you bring it in, it is enlivening your body. And as you exhale, see that as a way to just relax a little bit more. Now notice your feet, and if they are on the floor or on a cushion, however they are, just notice what they are doing. And if there's any weight and pressure or vibration or heat, just give attention to that. And notice if your legs are against a chair. And notice your legs and see if there is any sensations there. Lightness or heaviness, pressure and ease. And now notice your back against the chair. And notice how that feels for your body. Always breathing, and as you breathe in, you're relaxing. And now bring your attention to your stomach area. And if there's any tension there, maybe you're holding your stomach in, just relax it. Let it be softened. Take a couple breaths, just focusing there. And now notice your hands. And if your hands are tense or tight, see if you can just breathe a little into them and relax them a bit. Allow them to soften. And then notice your arms. Feel any sensation in your arms. And let your shoulders relax and be soft. Now put your attention on your neck and your throat. Letting the breath soften them and relax them. And now notice your jaw. And let your face and your facial muscles be soft. And then take a moment to notice just the whole body. Just spend a moment going from the top of your head down to the bottom of your toes and noticing if there's any place that needs a little attention, maybe a place of tension or a place that needs healing. And just give it a little attention. Breathing in relaxation to that part of the body. Revisiting any area that needs that extra attention. And take in 3 long and slow breaths. And when you finish that and are ready, you may open your eyes. Okay. So let me share with you a little bit about mindful listening. One of the classic books on mindfulness. So if you decide this is something you want to learn more about, one of the classic books on mindfulness is 1994's Wherever You Go, There You Are by John Kabat-Zinn. And he defines mindfulness in this way. He says mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. So paying attention in a particular way, so being in the moment and not being judgmental. So mindfulness is certainly the key piece for meditation, but it's also a practice that can be used in all areas of our life. It can be used in eating, mindful eating. It can also be used in mindful talking and listening. Now, one of the things we know is that mindfulness is especially helpful here because the average person just remembers 25% of what has been said, even after just a few minutes after the conversation. So mindful listening can help us to be more present as we listen, so we remember more. Mindful listening helps us silence the internal voices that are often running in our heads. And it can help us hear the whole message that the person is speaking and helping the person who's speaking to feel understood. I think we've all been in situations where we've been talking, and in the midst of talking, we have noticed that someone is not listening to us, right? So mindful listening is about really being present. It's about silencing those internal noises, those thoughts as best we can, and focusing our attention on the person who's speaking. So there's lots of barriers to doing this. There's lots of noises, whether it's TV noises or the phone noises, or the fact that many times we're on autopilot and we don't really listen. Sometimes our own insecurities stop us from really listening. If we're overly conscious of ourselves and maybe how we're looking today, or we don't measure up, what may make it hard for us to listen to others because we are so focused on ourselves. Defensiveness also makes it hard to listen. And then 2020 appears to make it hard to listen. So whether it's COVID or all that's going on in the world right now, whether that's the election or issues around unrest, there's just so much going on in the world, and that stress can make it hard. So here's some guidelines to help you think about mindful listening in your life. The first is to be present. So if there's someone you want to practice mindful listening with, maybe a a spouse or a child or a friend. Be present when you're listening. So that means simplify your surroundings, turn off the TV, put away the phone, and then ready yourself as you're listening. Take a couple deep breaths listening so that you're focusing and really present in your body. And if you have time, if you're going to be having a conversation that's a significant conversation, you may want to even spend some time before that helping yourself be present by doing a meditation time on your own or doing a body scan on your own. But that kind of thing can prepare you. Also, it helps you to be present if you make the intention to be present. I'm going to actually be here and I'm going to actually listen. So that's the first thing for mindful listening, being fully present. The second is bringing compassion and empathy with you. Be ready to validate the speaker's perspective and opinion. Doesn't necessarily mean you agree with it, but you're validating where they're at. And then keep an open heart as appropriate. Obviously, we're not talking about abusive situations here. We're talking about someone who's part of your regular life. And sometimes in our regular lives, we have parts of ourselves we close off to one another. So look at your heart and see if you can have that be a little more open. So that's the second piece. Bring compassion and empathy with you. And then the third piece is to be aware of your own issues. Right? So when we come to listen, are we anxious? Are we defensive? Are we judgmental? So taking that time to notice, maybe I bring some things to this conversation that makes it hard for me to be present because I'm dealing with some of my own things. So mindfulness, practicing mindfulness meditation can help us if we want to be more mindful in our conversations with one another. But be aware that as you try to be more mindful in your conversations, not to be so judgmental of yourself. Like if you do get distracted, if you do find you're anxious or judgmental, it's a process, and you have to be compassionate to yourself to be able to listen to others. In the book, The Zen of Listening, which is a great book that's about mindful listening, it shares that when we listen mindfully, we retain more information, and that's a helpful thing for our lives. That we also learn to pause before we speak. And that if we pause before we speak and we consider the effect of our words, that also helps us in our listening. When we bring mindfulness to our listening, we're able to pay attention for longer. And interestingly, they find that practicing mindful listening boosts our own self-esteem. So if we can be more present with others, we feel actually better about ourselves, which makes some intuitive sense, right? Because you think about if you're all distracted for everything, you may not be very centered in yourself and not feel very good about yourself. So this week, I want you just to think about, in the course of your everyday conversations, how you might listen and speak more mindfully. It can be a practice you start just with one dinner conversation or one phone conversation or one encounter with someone. But just give it a try and see if this idea of mindfulness can actually increase your connection to others. So let me just pause for a minute and see how that connects with you and what that brings up for you, this idea of mindful listening. So if you want to unmute yourself, you can do that.
I know that my spouse will be very excited to hear that I gone over this morning, but more importantly, that I actually demonstrated.
Yeah.
But my favorite is when, not my favorite, I'm being sarcastic, but when people say, I can do more than one thing at a time, and they have their phone out and their computer out, and you're trying to have a conversation with them. I feel like you can get more done and have more of a productive conversation if you give someone your full attention than if you're giving them, you know, a quarter or a half, and you're trying to do all these things at one time, that the conversations tend to go on longer and not be as effective and things of that nature.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are really good points. Yeah, I think we do think we can do 10 things at once, and it doesn't really work out for us. Yeah, absolutely. Others have thoughts about mindful listening? What do you think?
I think my husband would love it, because he accuses me of not really focusing on what he's saying. I don't hear what he's saying. It kind of goes in one ear and out the other. So maybe that's a natural evolution of being married for over 40 years. But I can see where focusing, being more mindful, listening carefully would be good for me to practice.
You'll have to let us know how that goes, like what you learn in that, right? Yeah. I was listening to a podcast this week, and the woman in it was talking about she's taking a 30-day challenge to not be on her phone. And she was saying one of the things she's learned is how little attention she gives the people around her and how much attention she gives her phone. And she of course knew that. She said, I don't think I'm on my phone more than most people, but she said, I just noticed the quality of the attention I gave people because my phone isn't in the room. And I thought that's very interesting. I think, you know, we're so used to certain practices in our world to really slow it down and to pay attention is a whole different thing. I always remember my dad one time saying to me that he got his hearing tested at Costco. My dad's a great lover of Costco. And he said, I had my hearing tested and I hear fine. Your mother says I don't hear. And I said, no, Dad, Mom says you don't listen. It's very different than you don't hear, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes there is an organic issue that we do not hear. But I think a lot of times it is we do not listen. So yeah, I think it's an interesting thing as we're, you know, becoming students of mindfulness, how we do that. So Midge, welcome. Glad you're here. Glad you're able to join us. Okay,
I thought
go ahead.
you said really interesting too about how part of mindful communication was being aware of yourself. I think it was the third component you mentioned.
Yeah.
And that's pretty amazing to be in the middle of a conversation, and you know you're trying to think about what this person's saying and all that, and then all of a sudden you're paying attention to what's going on with yourself at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting to take the time sometimes to think about why you're having the reaction you're having to what someone is saying. It's almost like I heard someone say it the other day, like you're wearing these buttons, and like you made this button available for someone to push and have you react a certain way. And then you know, it was a great visualization for me to say, why am I having that button available at certain times for people to push to have this reaction? And what is that saying about myself? And you know, that could be a very interesting journey of why you're having these reactions to what people are saying, when you know you don't have to give that power to people.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't have to about what they're saying.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the steps, you know, according to this kind of understanding, is it's becoming aware, right? It's that awareness of what connects with us and what might, you know, be that button that gets pushed. Let me share with you one thing that I think is a super helpful tool. This is a tool to use in an everyday kind of situation. And I actually want to share two tools. The first is called 2 feet, 1 breath. And then the second tool is called counting breaths. So the tool 2 feet, 1 breath is a mindfulness tool that you can use throughout your day to just ground you and help you be a little more conscious in the midst of even the busiest of days. So this tool was designed by or created by a physician who said that he had no time to practice meditation. So what he developed was the idea that he would pause before he went into the exam room to see a patient. And in that pause, he put his attention on his feet that were on the floor, and he took one conscious breath. And they studied this practice. It's actually, you could Google 2 feet, 1 breath, and you'd find a whole bunch of people who do this practice. And what they find is the regular practice of this, so just pausing, noticing your feet, and taking one conscious breath actually helps you deal with anxiety, depression, and issues around burnout. So it seems like a very simple thing, but it's actually a very helpful thing, especially if you're using it throughout the day. Now, you may not be in a kind of lifestyle where you're walking around a bunch and opening doors and pausing and doing that, but there's other ways to do it, especially with COVID. So every time you could do it every time you wash your hands. So the idea is you wash your hands and put your attention on your hands, take a deep breath, a mindful breath, and then go back to your day. So the idea is it is just a mindful pause, a moment of mindfulness that then lets you connect with yourself. So try that out. One of the things they say about mindfulness is it's not just the practice of the meditation, but the tiny practices throughout the day that help ground you and continue to bring you back into a mindful space. The other tool that I want to mention is the counting breaths tool, which I find to be a really helpful one during times of difficulty or stress. I used to use it all the time when I was flying, less so now because don't fly anywhere. But the idea is that you count your breaths starting with 10 and then going to 1. And as you're noticing your breaths and just silently counting them, you're just able to focus and settle your mind a bit. So it just helps you kind of be in the moment, notice your breaths, and you can notice your breaths in a couple ways. You can notice it at the point of your throat, what that feels like, or your nose as you breathe in through your nose, or your lungs. Wherever you put your attention is really up to you, but you're noticing that as you're counting backwards, and that combination of breath and counting can be a very powerful tool. So let's just try it out, this one of counting our breaths. I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes, and what I want you to do is just to get comfortable, relax, and take in a couple deep breaths. And I'm going to set the timer, and as you'll hear a bell, and as you hear that bell, then just start counting your breaths, going from 10 to 1. So let's begin. Here we go.
Morning. Can anybody hear me?
Maria, we're in the middle of a meditation, so just go ahead and silence yourself. Okay. So that's just a little tool, right? Counting breaths. Some people will love that one. Some people will not love that one. Sometimes it can show you how hard it is to stay focused for counting from 10 to 1, right? Did any of you experience that where you're just like, I can't even stay focused for this? Yeah, it can be, I think it's a great one, and it's a great one to do even without your eyes closed. So if you're in a situation and you're getting stressful, it's a way to connect and be a little more mindful, a little more grounded in your body. Okay. Let me talk now about developing a regular practice. One of the things I want to just give you a little bit of background on is kind of how to develop a regular meditation practice in your own life. Now, how you're going to do it, what it looks like, is going to be different, but there are some tried and true understandings about what helps us develop a meditation practice. So meditation is, of course, a really powerful habit, right? Some people credit it with all kinds of stuff. So we know that there's a lot of good press about meditation. Some studies say that it prevents age-related brain structure deterioration, that it increases our memory, that it can regulate our mood, that it can slow aging, that it can reduce inflammation, and that it can increase our immunity. So we know that there's lots of good reasons to do meditation, yet most of us struggle to develop a regular practice. So let's look at some ideas about how you can develop a regular practice. First idea is this: link a meditation practice to a habit you already have. So if you take a shower in the morning, after you get out of your shower, you could sit and do your meditation. Or if you go for a walk in the morning, you link it to that, and when you get home, you sit and do your meditation. Or If you commute during the day and you come home in the evening and maybe change your clothes or whatever you do, you could sit and do meditation. So it could just be even a little 5-minute practice, but link it to something you already do. So for me, I walk in the morning and then I sit and meditate. So they're linked together. So I get, they kind of feel like they're one thing. I use an app called Productive to track my habits. And so each morning that kind of helps me remember. I have like 4 or 5 things I do every morning. It gives me a little bit of a rush to be able to put that check mark next to it. But you can do it whatever way works for you. So link it to something you already do. Second thing is to start small. A lot of times it's like many of our habits in life. We go, I'm going to lose 100 pounds. I'm going to walk 5 times a day. I'm going to start lifting weights 7 days a week, right? None of that actually works. And it's the same true with meditation. So start small. 5 minutes a day is really just an amazing way to start. And you can start with 5 minutes, increase to 10 minutes. You may stop at 10 minutes or you may grow to 20 minutes, but give it a period of 6 months. Don't be jumping into a longer time. Go ahead and start with 5 minutes and then say, 6 months from now, I'd like to be up to 10 minutes. Slow and easy. So number 2, start small. Number 3, and some of you have already talked about this, use guided meditations. You do not need to sit in silence for 5 minutes for your practice, although you can. You can find a guided meditation you like and use that as a regular thing. So in the email that went out, I have a list of, some apps that have some guided meditation. Oprah has a great list of kind of the most current ones. There are also tons of guided meditation on YouTube. So that's another source. But if you use an app or YouTube, get a guided meditation you like. Even if you just have one you like and you just use that every day. It is usually the easiest way to get people to start meditating. Number 4, schedule it in your calendar. What we schedule, we do, right? So that helps a lot. So if you put it in your calendar or you put it on your to-do list, it helps you remember. I mean, we've talked a little bit about remembering already and how it can be kind of hard to remember all the things in a given day. I have to set the timer when I put the laundry on, or it's going to sit in the washer all day, right? So putting it in your calendar helps a lot. So let's talk about this for a minute. Are any of you already practicing meditation more regularly, and what has helped you do that? I'd like to know if there's anybody who has some info. Karen, yeah.
Yeah, so I started right away doing it in the morning. I would go down, take my vitamins, get my cup of coffee, and then go back up to my room. And I started with 5 minutes, and I'm up to about 7 now. The app works really well. What's interesting is yesterday, I was off my schedule a little bit for whatever reason. I don't remember why. And I actually forgot to meditate yesterday. Mm-hmm. And when I realized that I was tired and I just went to bed, I found it was a little more difficult to actually do the meditation this morning after having missed just one morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, just setting aside that one time right in the beginning of my day is the easiest for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Anyone else? Yeah, John.
I use it to go to sleep. And also, if I wake up in the night, I meditate myself back to sleep again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great use.
Sometimes in the morning, when I'm just laying in bed and not wanting to get up, I'll just I'll just meditate for 5-10 minutes then.
Mm-hmm. Great. Great. So linking it to relaxation in a place you already relax, or linking it to taking your vitamins in the morning. And here's the thing about like any habit in general, we probably all know this, is, you could get out of whack with it and then it takes a while to get back, but that's just normal, right? So it's like if you go on vacation, you've been meditating and then you go on vacation and you don't meditate for the week, you could feel like, oh, I blew it. Oh, it's over. I'm never going to get back to being a regular meditator. You will you just have to start back. It's this life does not go like this, right? Life goes like this. So that's just how it works. Anyone else have a regular practice of meditation already? Okay. So it's really, it doesn't have to be a huge deal. That's what I want you to know. It doesn't have to be like, huge, right? You don't need special equipment. You don't need a special place, although some people have a special chair they like to sit in or a cushion they sit on. Really is about starting small and then doing it and knowing there will be times when it's easier and times when it's harder. But it's kind of like whatever you've made a commitment to in your life, whether it's your health or your family, that there are ups and downs in that commitment, and that you just renew yourself and keep going. And there's one of the things I think helps in all of this is to do a little reading every once in a while around meditation, or to take a little class on meditation, or to go on a retreat, right? So sometimes our practice needs a little bit of a kickstart. I did a 7-day silent retreat a year ago. I do not recommend that. That was that was awful. So because I'm a 30-minute meditator a day, right? 30 minutes morning, 30 minutes night. That's 10 hours a day of meditation when you go on a 7-day silent retreat. That's 10 hours a day you are meditating. So not for me. But there's all kinds of yoga and meditation retreats, or there's a lot of things online now as well that you can just do. So that can I find that helps my practice too. It kind of rekindles it when things get a little dull or a little stuck. Okay, so a couple more things before we finish up today. I want to do one more topic with you, and then we'll do one more meditation together. So let's talk about the topic of concentration or focus. I think this is an important one for all of us, because I think one of the reasons people give up meditating is they just feel like, oh, my mind's all over the place. Now, remember, you are not going to be clearing your mind out. Mindfulness meditation is not about getting rid of all your thoughts. Your mind will have thoughts. That's what your mind was created to do. Mindfulness, I think one of the reasons it's a good approach for meditation is mindfulness is about helping you become aware of what your thoughts are, and to be not judgmental about them, but just to notice where you're at. And so when we want to increase our focus, when we want to increase our concentration, mindfulness invites us to use the tool of having an anchor. An anchor helps us, no matter what's going on in our brain, to be a little more focused, to be a little more present. It is a structure that helps us. So let me give you some ideas on what anchors look like. The most popular anchor that we've talked about already is the breath. And so the breath, we may notice the feel in our mouth or our nose as we breathe in. So that's a popular anchor. Sounds are also a very popular anchor. Whether it's the birds in the yard, or the running water of a fountain, or even a fan in your room can be a sound anchor. Also, a word can be a sound anchor. The word love or joy, kind of what traditionalists would call like a mantra. So a sound can be an anchor for you. What you see can be an anchor. So meditation isn't always about closing your eyes. You can meditate by focusing on a flower or a candle, or most all of us have had the experience of meditating, maybe not even by choice, when there's a fire in the fireplace, right? We just kind of get drawn into that, and we find ourselves present for that. So what we see can be an area of focus. What we smell can be an area of focus and anchor for us. So that's why incense are used sometimes with meditation. You can have a candle that you light that has a scent that you enjoy. Some people use essential oils before they meditate. So I'm a big lover of eucalyptus oil. So I'll just put a little bit like on the palm of my hand, rub it together, smell it in before I start my meditation. So it just kind of stays with me during my meditation. Another anchor is taste. This is a little less common, but you can taste, you might put a mint in your mouth before you start your meditation and really just focus your attention on what it tastes like. Our mouths, we are tasting all the time. Usually, even if there's nothing in our mouth, there is a taste there. So a focus on that. Some people will use mindful eating. So one of the exercises that you can do is just, when you eat your lunch, to use that as a tool of being mindful and just noticing every bite, focusing on every taste in a meal. Touch can be an anchor. So we've used a bit of that with the body scan, because I'll say, notice the pressure on your legs as you sit in the chair. Notice your feet on the floor and the pressure of that. So that touch can also be an anchor. Body sensations can be an anchor. So that can be if there's, of course, something like if there's pain in your body, but it could also be if there is a body sensation of tingling or working to relax your body. That can be a sensation that you notice. Another anchor is emotions. So one of the things we become aware of in mindfulness is what we're feeling, not just what we're thinking in our head. So if we're feeling angry, we have those thoughts, but then how that feels in the body. So that can also be an anchor where we turn our attention and actually enter into those feelings, those emotions, and let ourselves be present to them. And then thoughts can be an anchor. So one meditation that I will do if I'm particularly distracted is to just take 30 minutes and notice the thoughts going through my head. So I think I mentioned this last week. I'll just notice planning, judging, thinking, right? I'm just like labeling the thoughts I have. Planning, mostly my thoughts are planning. I do a lot of planning. But it's just noticing your thoughts without judgment, with compassion for yourself. This is how I'm just wired, and just notice the thoughts that go through your mind. So that can become an anchor for you to be present. So instead of trying to get rid of your thoughts, this way of thinking is really about being present to your thoughts and holding them with attention and with compassion. So anchors are ways that we use our senses or our emotions or our thoughts to ground us in the moment. And what's great about it is many times in our culture, we're kind of taught to escape how we feel or to escape what we're thinking, that we should numb ourselves to these things. Mindfulness says, no, be present, that there is a real gift in the midst of whatever you're feeling that you might be present. So to use an anchor, you can find one that works for you. Find something that really connects with you as an anchor, and use that. And sometimes people say, well, it's a crutch. I should be able to sit there for 30 minutes. I'm like, no, just use whatever works for you. So we're going to practice an anchor. I'm going to use an anchor with you. And I'm going to use a photo. This is Vasquez Rocks, which is out where I live. And it's just a beautiful photo. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take about 3 minutes. I'll set my timer so you'll hear the bells at the beginning, at the end. And what you're going to do is you're going to use your eyes to be mindful. You're going to be looking at just all the different pieces of this photograph and entering into it and letting yourself be more present for it. So we will start. Okay, so go ahead and unmute yourself. I'd love to know what you thought of that experience of meditating with an image.
3 minutes is really long.
Right. I did change it the first time I taught this class. It was 4 minutes, Sean. I did cut it down.
You know, I think about, I have 24 hours a day and I can't still my mind for 3 minutes. Like, golly.
But that's okay, right? Here's the thing. You just notice it and you just have compassion for yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You just go, that's just where I'm at. That's okay. Right? You get the benefit regardless. You get the benefit regardless. As long as you hold it loosely. As long as you hold it loosely. Yeah.
Okay.
Marty, what did you think about that? I see you're trying to get in there.
Oh, I love Vasquez rocks. The rocks jut up in odd angles and they're very craggy. And when I was focusing on that part of the picture, I looked at all of them as being stumbling blocks that I have experienced in the last few days of one nature and another. And then when I shifted my focus to the sun, and I don't know which direction the picture was taken in, but I imagined that it was the sunrise and that the sun was the hope of a new day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of along with that, what she was saying, I had kind of opposite emotions with that picture. I love that picture. First of all, I had some really wonderful emotions with the sun and the rays that were taking me up to focus on God. And the same thing with the rocks on the side that were sweeping up. It was like, you know, lifting my spirits and stuff. And then I saw the rocks, the individual rocks with cracks in them. And that was just like the cracks in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Nice.
Thank you.
In everyone's life.
Yeah. Yeah. Michelle, what about you?
Well, I would say that I think the biggest piece of advice that you've given so far that's been the most helpful is to not be critical of the thoughts and the distractions, because clearly I have a lot of them. I mean, even just right now in this session, like, you know, my daughter came down, had a hurting tooth, and I had to hold her for a while. And, you know, and so being able to sit and then not beat myself up about or think, well, I tried it, but that didn't work, you know, and realizing that that's part of the process, and that, you know, that your language of, you know, notice it, acknowledge it, but don't beat yourself up about it, I think is really important for me to hear, because
Absolutely.
if I waited for the perfect moment to have a great meditation, it would never happen.
No, it will never happen. You know, as I'm leading today, the plumber has to come to the house and I hear my dog having a nervous breakdown. So it's like,
yeah. And we have solar going, pounding on the ceiling right now. So I'm like, yeah, no, this is not the most peaceful environment, but you know, that's okay.
That's right. And I think that's the thing about mindfulness, right? So mindfulness is a meditation. So there's all kinds of meditation where, you know, it needs to be all silent, needs to be all perfect. Mindfulness is really about being present to your life and being in it, right? Being in it and being able to see what is there and have compassion for yourself, have compassion for others, have compassion for your life. Some sessions are going to be fine where you're quiet and everything's great, but don't let that fool you. That's not normal, right? What's normal is someone knocking at the door and, you know, the dishwasher blowing up and life happening. I mean, this is what's normal in life. And it's to go, I can still meditate and I can still find that 5 minutes to be more present so that I'm more present in the rest of my life. Yeah. Yeah.
I heard somewhere once that normal is the setting on a dryer.
Yeah. Right.
Or a washer, one of those two.
Right. I could see that. Okay. So let me give you a little wrap up and see if you have any other questions that we can spend time on. So this week, what I want you to try is just to learn to try out one of the practices we've worked on today. So, That could be the body scan, that could be finding an image that you think is beautiful and focusing on that. You could just take time in the next couple days to remember that 2 feet, 1 breath, and try that out. And if you don't know where to start, just start with 3 minutes in your shower in the morning. Just take some time to feel the water, to be present, to just be in your experience of life. So use an anchor, find an anchor you like, find an anchor that's good for you, and just, enjoy it. I think it's helpful to just have that and to experience that. And maybe you want to try some mindful listening. That's always something that's helpful for us. So are there any other questions that I can answer, or anything came up today? Yeah, Judy.
Yeah, when we were doing the counting backwards from 10,
yeah,
at first I was thinking, am I breathing in and going 10, 9, 8?
No.
I don't think that's what it was it?
No.
It's counting each breath.
Each breath.
Just little breaths. 10. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it's like 10, 9. Right? So it's that kind of.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you find yourself hyperventilating, then you're probably going too fast, right? Yeah. Other questions that folks have? So just try it out and just give it a whirl, 3 to 5 minutes, link it to something you already do, and have compassion for yourself, and know that it's really just the doing it that is the thing that helps you grow. So it's like so many things in life, when you started riding a bicycle, you didn't ride perfectly that first day. It took a while. So you'll have times where you do great with meditation, times where you fall off the bike, and that's just all part of it. So be at peace, my friends. So let me close us with a prayer. We are grateful for this time, God, and we're grateful for the ability to be mindful of our lives, to really focus on whether it's the difficulties or the beauties, the taste of food, or the beautiful light all around us. Be with us as we go from this time, and awaken us to all that is out in the world. All of this we pray. Amen. Okay, my friends, I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great session. Have a great chat.
Thanks.